does this just about every game. Sam comes in for the last kneel out. So you're saying the Joneses, Jerry and Steven, were able to beat the Joneses, Daniel and Mac,
Yes.
but they can't beat Big Brain Brock. Look at the brain on Brock.
Look at the
Yes. Thanks for joining us. Ho-hum, 42-10. The 49ers rocked the Cowboys. Brock Purdy was awesome. They ran the ball 41 times. They only had to throw it 25 times. Brock Purdy with a career-high 4 touchdown passes. George Kittle, there was a Kittle sighting. 3 catches, 67 yards, 3 touchdowns as well. Plus, he sealed it. We'll get into that conversation.
Not over the middle. He was up the sideline twice. Kittle over the sidelines.
That 18 toss, flea flicker.
Is that what that was called?
18 toss flea flicker.
How'd you know that?
Just so you know. Just giving you a little insight into that whole thing. 42-10, the 49ers beat the Cowboys, and they beat them soundly. Let's start with you, Dennis. Takeaways from the 42-10 win.
Well, we talked about this Dallas defense and how great they were, and they just didn't show up today. And I don't know if Kyle Shanahan had a good game plan. Obviously, he did have a very good game plan, but I think the Cowboys just they were saying we're going to take Christian McCaffrey out the football game, but then you forget about guys like George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel. So. This is a tough team to play. I mean, as far as to defend them, because you have a quarterback that's on time. He makes good decisions. Again, no turnovers. The 49ers win the turnover game today, and they win the football game. But they whooped them soundly. I mean, the game was over. Think about this: NFL game is over in the third quarter. You had your backups in, so it was a good showing for the 49ers. Right now, you got to think this is one of the best teams in the National Football League. They impressed me today, big time.
They're the best team in the National Football League, and I don't think it's close at this point. Brock Purdy, 9 touchdowns now on the year, no interceptions. After what Tua did today, I mean, it's on the table. We were talking this last week a little bit in terms of rocketing up the MVP charts or the MVP betting odds, and Brock went from number 9 in the NFL to number 6 last week. He was still ahead of Christian McCaffrey, even after the 4-touchdown game when he goes 20 of 21. A lot of people have Tyreek Hill and Christian McCaffrey as maybe their leaders for potential offensive player of the year. But after today, what we saw Brock Purdy do in an offense that is humming as the best in football, 42 points they put up today, a defense that's playing like it's the best in football. We keep joking about needing these teams need to see somebody, and there's going to be a test. This is like the 49ers of old. We just had Bob Sargent here. I mean, this is what they used to do to people. 5 straight games now they've opened with a score. Last week a field goal, but 4 of their 5 games they've opened their first drive with a touchdown. Brock Purdy, 4 touchdown passes, a career-high passer rating for today's game, coming off of a career-high in completion percentage after last week going 20 of 21. As it stands right now and looking at the next 4 games into the bye week, and I know you look at this on paper, and everybody does this when the season starts. You count your wins and you count your loss totals. There's no reason, looking at these next 4 games that the 49ers have starting at the Factory of Sadness next week in Cleveland, that there's no reason this team shouldn't be 9-0 heading into their bye week, first week of November.
42-10, the 49ers beat the Cowboys.
Good
for all
God.
the talk this week long about what the keys were going to be. They absolutely dominated, and I know, Dennis, you got to love this. Both sides of the ball, offensive line, defensive line, they absolutely dominated. They got a bunch of sacks. They got the interceptions, 3 on Dak Prescott. In fact, let's give you the stat of the game, and there are a ton of stats. To stat of the game brought to us by our good friends at Stevens Creek Toyota. Shop a huge selection of over 500 vehicles. Stevens Creek Toyota, the obvious choice. And let's go to this. George Kittle, and this is ironic because the captain of the game, the honorary captain of the game, was one Vernon Davis, and he was on the field. Well, George Kittle had 3 touchdown catches. The last time a 49er had 3 touchdown catches in a game, Vernon Davis, on October 25th, 2009, in a 24-21 loss to Houston. And there he is on the sideline watching George Kittle catch 3 touchdown passes. And, by the way, 3 catches, 67 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's pretty efficient. And that's your stat of the game.
Yeah, it's pretty efficient unless you had his over on catches, which was 3.5. If you had, I didn't. We're all good. We're all good, boys.
Okay, good.
But 3 touchdown receptions. His last time he had 2 came back in a game against Arizona last year. So, I mean, we talked before the game. We said this was a linebacker game. This was a game where I thought tight ends were going to be big, running game was going to be big. McCaffrey wasn't huge on the ground. Niners turned it over for the first time since week 1. There's too many weapons. It's why you look around and you go, even if somebody gets banged up, they've already played a game without Brandon Ayuk. They played a game last week where Debo Samuel was effectively a decoy, right? He had the rib injury took 3 carries but didn't have a target in the game. Ayuk was pretty good today, got one big gain called back.
40 yards.
On the Spencer Burford hold, but then they came right back and hit Debo, and Debo gets right back across the 20.
Yeah.
Then Juice gets him, drags guys up to the goal line. There are too many weapons on this team. They haven't even had a healthy backfield entirely. Elijah Mitchell hasn't played in a few weeks because of his health. We haven't seen him. He didn't practice this week. Juwan Jennings, who had the shin injury, had a big 3rd and Juwan first down in this one. I was in the bathroom. I heard Papa yelling, 3rd and Juwan. I was like, damn, it's not Ayuk. Could have used some more Ayuk. But in terms of, Tim wants to hit me with some punting stats. Mitch Wishnowsky, 4 punts, 46.8 average, 2 inside the 20. Thank you, Tim. Don't come back in with more punting stats, dude. I'm going to need kicking stats. So those are your stats of the game. But again, you can pick one almost each and every week from a different player. You can pick the sacks. We talked about the defense today. I don't know that there's a team right now in football that can sniff this 49er offense or defense. I mean, the defense could play like B+, B-. Dennis, what does that do for a team, a team's mindset or a unit's mindset?
Well, I mean, I'm a little biased, but you win football games with your defense, right? And you got the best linebacker, in the National Football League, and you got your best, front 4 guys, and I think at least in the National Football League. So, Dak was, he's a guy that wants to get rid of the football. And, I don't know what is in the second half, third quarter, or maybe it was the third quarter where he just kind of punted the ball away. And it looked like a punt, but it ended up being an interception. So, you've got, a defense that can take over football games. And then that's exactly what they did. And you were talking about the injuries and the offensive line. Aaron Banks goes down. And then they bring in, he comes in and he dominates the line just like, he's a starter in there. So, this is a deep team. They play at a high level. And we saw today or tonight that they just dominated on both sides of the ball, even in the kicking game, just dominated. Yeah. So, it's early in the season and it's, we always talk about if the season ended and all this blah, blah, blah stuff, but this team is on track. I mean, they got to be the best team in the National Football League.
From Brock Purdy, like we talked about, and here's a big key stat, too. You don't even have to look at the numbers. 25 throws, 41 runs, 41 for 170. They almost doubled the time of possession, so they had the ball. We talked about what George Kittle is doing. And then you mentioned the defense. Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw each had a sack. They combined for 13 tackles, 2 passes defense, 3 tackles for losses. Dre Greenlaw, I thought, set the tone early. I thought he might get a call. There was a kind of a throw out of bounds, and you're kind of holding your breath on that. But Fred Warner gets the interception when this thing was kind of spiraling out of control. I thought that he sealed it with his interception. Orrin Burks got one a little bit later as well, in addition to the Gibson. Those were the 3 interceptions. But I can't decide. I know when you throw up 42 points, you're probably going to say the offense was better, but there was just one drive for Dallas. They scored that touchdown. They scored the 3 points coming out of the half on that drive, but then the 49ers answered with a touchdown of their own, so it was 21-10. And then you mentioned, I thought the biggest play of the game, and you mentioned this, Copes, was Dallas pulls with a field goal. They get the ball first to start the half. They go down and get a field goal. It's 21-10. It's still a ball game. On third down, the 49ers did convert. They go to Ayuk for 40 yards down to the Dallas 10. Spencer Burford's holding on the play at 9:36 of the
Damn it all,
quarter.
Spence.
So then everybody's kind of grumbling.
Damn it all.
It's 3rd and 14, and they go right back, and Brock throws a ball over an outstretched linebacker's hands. Perfect. Debo makes the catch in stride, gets down to the Dallas 18, so it's a 43-yard play. After a 40-yard play gets called back, 2 plays later, they hit Kittle into the end zone, and it's 28-10. And Dallas from that point forward, and I always remember what you say, Dennis, when you were taking on Dallas, you said that at one point Troy Aikman just no mas, they were done. And that's what happened to Dak Prescott. I thought when they scored that touchdown to answer their field goal with a touchdown to make it 28-10, the next drive was when Dak overthrew that ball, the Gibson interception, and the route was on. They scored again, 35-10, with the run by Mason up the middle. I mean, this thing got out of control really fast, but I thought at that point, it's 28-10. There's still 7 minutes left in the third quarter, but for some reason, Dallas just kind of threw in the towel, and Dak started throwing stupid passes from that point forward. He threw 3 interceptions in the second half. First it was Gibson, Warner, Burks. It was like the guy just kind of gave up.
Yeah, Cowboys come out, they score with that opening field goal, 6 plays, 39 yards. The Niners go touchdown before they punted the ball away again after a 5-play, 8-yard drive with 4:03. Actually, they took away a 4:03, 42-10 at that point. So you talk about the interceptions there that put it out of reach. 3 plays, 16 yards, then a pick. 2 plays, no yards for Dallas, then a pick. 3 plays, 33 yards. And a pick. So 3 straight drives ended a pick after a 6-play, 39-yard drive.
It was just like he got frustrated. It's just like he just said, you know what, the heck with it. And he throws the deep ball that Gibson actually ran the route better than the receiver.
Right.
goes down there and gets it. They score
He's
on that
shadowing him
one.
over the top, right?
And then Warner gets one. And then the one to Burks, I mean, the receiver's double covered. Like, I know that you're down in the game, but it's like you're just going to throw another interception. I thought Dallas at that point got their daubers down. And if you see him again in the playoffs, and again, I'll defer to you on this, Dennis, I don't know that Dallas truly believes they could come in to this place and beat the 49ers. They just don't match up well. Offensive line, defensive line, playmakers all across the board. CeeDee Lamb, we heard about CeeDee Lamb. He had 13 targets and 10 catches. He was invisible tonight. The running game, absolutely nothing for the Cowboys in the running game. The 49ers seemed like the hungrier team, and I thought Dallas at 3-1, falling to 3-2 potentially. I thought Dallas would come in here hungry, worked up. They were never in this game. And maybe Trey was a double agent. Maybe Trey was actually working for the 49ers on the Cowboys.
I'll tell you what, he wasn't giving the Niner.
Agent.
I'll tell you what, he wasn't giving them any clues to the Niner offense.
Sure
I'll tell you that much.
No
by the way, at one point, after the Niners proved the 42nd point, you hear this, Dennis? The crowd. I was out in the bowl. I was in the lower deck, and I heard the crowd going, "We want Trey. We want Trey." It's like, damn, you're gonna want Trey. You're gonna get Cooper Rush. Is what you're gonna get.
They showed on TV him warming up, but he was warming up with
with a hat on, right?
Yeah. But he was throwing the ball around, and then it's great because
I wonder if there'll be a Niners checking his account tomorrow.
Papa was saying
why do you
that.
have a personal check from Jed York?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, Jerry.
I just need cash under the table to be a double agent.
Jerry's like, "What are you doing in my middle school?"
No, they did. It was like they knew what was coming, but
he was throwing the ball though.
But you said this before the game, and you were right. This thing was one in the trenches. I know playmakers make plays, and Kittle and guys made plays, but offensive, defensive line, and we were talking so much before the game. Dallas has their full offensive line, and Micah Parsons. I mean, did Micah Parsons make any impacpable plays?
I don't even remember him being out there. I don't even remember Micah Parsons having an impact on the game whatsoever.
They had a good game plan. I mean, they did a lot of traps on him. They did a lot of kick out blocks, and they ran to him a lot of different times. So they kind of eliminated him by taking away his ability to get to the ball and find the football. They ran directly at him, and they ran a lot of traps.
Yeah, didn't do anything in that NFC Championship game. 4 tackles, 1 solo, and never near the quarterback. So, again, they did a nice job protecting. And that was, as you pointed out, Copes, they had an injury to the left guard as
77
well.
was his number, right?
Yeah, so they had some injuries there. So, anyway, we'll get more into it. Text line is wide open. We're on YouTube and Twitch as well. Start the conversation there as the 49ers absolutely dominate the Cowboys 42-10. We'll continue to talk about it coming up next. John Lund, Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown. 49ers dominate the Cowboys at Levi's. We'll talk more about it next, only here on the Sports Leader.
Purdy back. Time. Steps around from DeMarcus Lawrence. Throws for the end zone. Caught by George Kittle. Touchdown! San Francisco!
Boy, what a start. First drive for this offense.
You're going to have to come up with some new touchdown celebration dances.
The spike will never be a bad thing. So I'm just going to continue to spike it because that's what tight ends are born to do.
He ain't wrong. George Kittle, his first career 3-touchdown reception game. First time, actually, it's his 6th career multi-touchdown receiving game. But the first time ever he's caught 3 in a game as the Niners hammer the Dallas Cowboys 42-10, outscore them in the second half. 21-3 after they outscored them 21-7 in the first half. Why don't we make George Kittle our difference maker of the game? Sponsored by Benjamin Moore Paints. Experience the Benjamin Moore retail difference at our independently owned authorized retailers today or at benjaminmoore.com. I was looking at his game log, George Kittle's, for his career, just to see when I was looking at how many times he had caught multiple touchdowns in a game. So, of course, last year I mentioned he did it against, I believe it was Arizona. He did it last year in a 38-10 win. How about that? 2 touchdown catches, 38-10. Today, 42-10. The other games he's done it. He did it also last year against, the Arizona game was actually 38-13 that he did it. He did it against Arizona on it was back in November of 2022. December of 2022, he did it against Seattle. He caught 2. And he had that huge game where he only had 1 touchdown catch. This was back in 2020. Remember the 15-for-15 game for 183? That's the best of his career. However, he did catch 2 touchdowns in a game back in 2021 against Seattle. So he's done it against Seattle twice, Arizona twice, Washington once, and now the Dallas Cowboys once. Not a huge yardage game, but they needed every one of those scores. Statistically, not a huge yardage game really for anybody. Right, nobody really, as far as Christian McCaffrey goes, not huge numbers on the ground. George Kittle, not huge numbers through the air. But it was the field position for the Niners, and really that's what defense does for you, Dennis. I'm looking at the average field position in the first half for Dallas. They started at an average of their own 19-yard line. Niners were getting great field position, so we were joking about the punt stats, but great field position every time down the field. Check out how many plays in the second half resulted in scores, how many drives resulted in scores for the Niners. 1 play, 26 yards, and a touchdown. They had another one that was a 1-play, 10-second possession play, 38 yards and a touchdown on the flea flicker to George Kittle. 9 plays, 75. 3 plays, 8 was a punt. 775 touchdown. 1262 touchdown. 126 and a touchdown. The Niners were 4 for 5 in the red zone. They've done 9 of their last 10 red zone appearances have resulted in a score. Pretty incredible and tough to stop.
Yeah, and that one opportunity they missed with Christian McCaffrey fumbles the football on the 2-yard line. But other than that, in the red zone, I mean, that was always the issue with the 49ers, right? It's punching the ball in. And now you get in the red zone, it's 6 points. And I think of course, it's Kyle Shanahan's play calling, but it's the play of your quarterback. I mean, he makes a good decision. He can see the entire football field. And a couple of those throws of George Kittle were right on target. I mean, they were right there in a small window, and he was able to catch him. And that one down the sideline is just wide open with the flea flicker. But, it's just the way the offense is, and it sets up, like you said, with the defense and also flipping the field with your kick coverage or your kick return and your field goal or your punt return. But, this offense gets the ball in the red zone, it's going to be 6 points. And that's just kind of what they've been doing the entire football season. I mean, what is it? 30, what would that, 42? They've had 30 points, at least 30 points every football
30
game.
points
So
every study for Purdy.
The first 3 games were 30, 35, and then now 42.
Yeah,
I mean,
so they're clicking in the red zone.
Yeah, and like you said, the only game really they didn't was they were kicking field goals against the Rams. But, I mean, if you combine the third down conversions, which they were 6-11, they were very good last week against Arizona. Then you start looking at the red zone, like you said, 9 of 10, the only fumble. And it was right away. You got the ball at the 16-yard line because Pollard fumbled. That was right near the sidelines. Again, Fred Warner had an interception, a sack, and he forced that fumble by Pollard that Givens recovered. Then they gave it right back when McCaffrey fumbled at the 2-yard line. That's the only one time they haven't scored in the red zone in the last 10. So you're not kicking field goals. You're getting touchdowns. There's a 4-point swing every time you do that. And in the past, they have struggled in those kind of situations. But it's kind of what you just said, Copes, is that when you get in the red zone and you look at this team, and you're looking around and you're going, okay,
who am I covering?
Exactly.
Not Kyle Juszczyk, I'll tell you that.
But Juszczyk and McCaffrey and Jennings is back, and he's big, and Debo's great near the goal line. Ayuk has elevated his game, whether Pro Football Focus puts him at number 1, which they did, but he's just uncoverable.
Ronnie Bell caught a touchdown last week, or 2 weeks ago, right?
If you watch what he's doing, if you're watching him run the routes, guys just can't hang with him. And Kyle said in the postgame show there was one that he missed. He actually missed 2 throws in a row in the first quarter. He missed one behind and high on Ayuk, and then the very next play he threw one high to Debo. But those were really the only 2 throws that he missed the entire game. He had a couple right over an outstretched arm and a nice throw to Debo again after the penalty was called. That was the one I thought was the backbreaker when they scored after Dallas had kicked that field goal in their opening possession to make it 28-10 after they scored, hit Kittle for the third touchdown. He was just really on point. And look, we shouldn't care what the national media thinks, but if there's anybody who's still stuck on this whole thing of he was picked 262 and he doesn't have the laser arm and he plays for Kyle Shanahan and he's got all these weapons around him.
Why is that a bad thing? I never understand why that's a damning thing about a guy.
But if you just watch the game itself, you see these high-end throws. He's not just dumping it off. This isn't about, check down throws and all these kind of things.
And the air yards are what people will talk about. Well, he's not throwing it downfield.
These are that throw that he made at Debo after the penalty, that was a high-end throw over an outstretched arm. Okay, the ball to Kittle was a pretty easy one because of the play design, but outside of that, he made a lot of high-end throws tonight, and he's just unflappable. And then you look at a guy like Dak Prescott, who, a lot of people he throws 3 interceptions, and once it turned to 28-10, the guy literally gave up.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm the Cowboys right now and I'm paying this guy $40 million and I'm talking about extending him even further, I got to have a leader on that side of the ball that's unflappable. Brock Purdy makes these plays and it acts like, he's playing backyard football. Dak Prescott throws 1 interception. They go down 28-10, and the guy absolutely falls apart.
Yeah, and that, and that's what happens to, when you have your leader play like that, and that's what you saw. The whole team gave up, right? Your leader, your quarterback's out there just throwing balls up to be intercepted. Your defense is like, this game is a done deal, and it resonates throughout the entire football team when your leader gives up like that. And, like you said, it looked like he did. It looked like he was just, I don't know if he was trying to make plays or he was just, I'm just going to throw the ball up and see what happens.
It was 28-10 with still 5-6 minutes left in the third quarter. You're probably not going to win the game, but at least you're giving it a shot. Yeah. And at that point, like you said, it permeates through the team versus you get guys on the 49ers who will not let you lose. Fred Warner doesn't let you. Kittle doesn't let you. Debo doesn't let you. Brock doesn't let you. You have all these different guys that are leaders on this team and play that way. Dallas gets down 28-10. And basically, Dak throws a punt, then he throws one to Warner, and for good measure, he's got a guy double covered, and Orrin Burks gets one. It's like, dude, what are you doing?
You got your backups in.
Seriously, throwing picks. Wow, 21-3 in the second half. They absolutely dominated. And honestly, I don't know who played better because Brock was great and the offense was really humming, but defensively, this was their most consistent performance.
Brock doesn't have these set up. I don't think the field position he had for some of these plays. They made it really easy. They had a lot of short fields here. I told you we were looking at some of these. They had a couple 2 one-play touchdowns, 1 for 38, 1 for 26. That's field position. That's turnovers, 3 straight drives resulting in interceptions. And the opening drive comes with a field goal for the Cowboys in the second half, and that was it. We got plenty more to talk about here. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champ, Dennis Brown, John Lum with you live from Levi Stadium. Niners kick the crap out of the Cowboys. 42-10 is the final. Brock Purdy now on the season, 9 touchdowns, no interceptions. Is he the league's MVP as it stands right now through 5 weeks? Is it him or is it Christian McCaffrey? We can talk more about that. Tracy Sandler, Fangirl Sports Network. She's going to pop in here. She just left the podium where George Kittle was talking. She was in the locker room talking to some of the guys. We'll see what she has to say. And is there anybody in the NFL who can hold a candle to either side, both the 49ers offense or defense? Doesn't feel like it right now. Tracy Sandler joins us next from Levi Stadium, where the Niners have beaten the Cowboys 42-10, only here on the Sports Leader.
Yeah, I think it did help for sure. Just watching the film and just our scheme going into this game, the mindset going into this game, I just felt like it was just better overall for myself. You know, the last game, just the pass rush, where we were at in the season, and it was great defense. They were, solid in what they did. I don't know if that maybe got me off edge a little bit or what, but this game, just the mindset going into it, knowing what I'm looking at. I know I've played this defense before. It helped for sure. But, the play calls were great. Guys made plays all around me. Defense did great, so it wasn't just me.
Again, it's niche, but it's me.
Of course. 49ers blow up the Cowboys 42-10. Thanks for joining us. The Red and Gold Wrap. Give us your thoughts. Text line is wide open. Anything that you want us to talk about. Tracy Sandler is here, as she was last week. It was great having her. Great response. We wanted to bring her back at Tracy FGSN. Make sure that you check her out. Fangirl Sports Network, and she covers the 49ers. She travels with them, and she's one of the few reporters that does that.
If she had a Super Bowl ring, Dennis would be out. You know what I mean?
That's it.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that, brother. Golly. Unbelievable. She is better. She's better looking. So I get it.
All works out.
I get it.
She was down in the locker room and in the press conference as well, so we'll get her insight on everything that happened post-game. There was Brock Purdy bringing us back. 4 touchdown patches, 3 go to George Kittle. Absolutely dominant performance. Give us your thoughts and give us some insight, too. You were just down there talking to everybody. I would imagine that the mood, fairly good.
The mood is definitely very good. But the thing is, and this is kind of what stood out to me, the mood is very good. But again, Brock Purdy said being 5-0 is important. So what either he or Christian said it. Oh, Christian said it. Christian said that. But they have a goal. So they're like, it's just one more step into the final goal. So they're happy they won. They had a great performance. Everybody was very excited about it. But at the end of the day, now it's on to Cleveland, and then it's on to Minnesota, and then it's on to the Bengals, because they have a goal, and that's to win the Super Bowl. And so if they're 5-0 right now and then losing the NFC Championship game or losing the Super Bowl, the fact they were 5-0 right now just doesn't mean that much.
Yeah, and Tracy, you predicted this, and we were just talking about
really good about that too.
on your podcast. and I want to know, I mean, what did you see coming in this football game? I mean, this was a number 1 defense coming in. What did you see that you saw this blowout coming?
I just think the Cowboys don't live up to expectations. And I talked a little bit about this last week, and I think part of that is coaching. And I do think in a game like this, Kyle Shanahan has a distinct advantage over pretty much anybody else who's calling plays on the other team. So I think some of that is coaching. And the Cowboys just can never seem to get to that level. Whereas the 49ers are showing week after week that they are at that level. They are focused. They are well coached. There's not this narrative that they can't get it done. They have a goal in mind. They are also so good top to bottom. And yes, the Cowboys have an excellent defense. We didn't get to see it so much tonight. The Cowboys have an excellent defense, but so do the 49ers. And their offense, they talked a lot about it tonight in the postgame. They can attack on every level. And Nick Bosa said that the difference between now and 2019, obviously that was a great team, but he said it was so predicated on the run game. And now, obviously, the run game is a huge part of it, but they have Deebo Samuel. They have Brandon Ayuk. They can go to Jawan Jennings on 3rd and 2 and get a 19-yard first down. They have George Kittle, who scores 3 touchdowns. They have Kyle Juszczyk. I mean, and then, of course, they have Christian McCaffrey. So it's just, you can't stop a team like that when they can attack you from every which way. So to me, it just felt like it really wasn't going to be close. As I look at the schedule, and there will be a game, there will be one of those games that they should have won and they'll lose it. But as I look at the schedule, their true test is going to come December 3rd against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, that's the thing. And we're talking to Tracy Sandler, Fangirl Sports Network. Good teams figure out ways to win, find ways to win, that you don't have to do it the same way every time. Some games will be more defensive, some more offensive. You were with the team in 2019 or covering the team in 19. It was it was the first time in this era that we saw them take that step. And we kind of thought it was going to happen in 18 before Jimmy goes down with the injury after winning 5 in a row to wrap up 17. So we kind of had an off year there. You get Bosa, then you have the big jump. What's the difference in mentality in the locker room from what you're talking about now? Because you hear guys like Mike McDaniel, and I do this thing where I call it the ticker tape test, where it's like, can I see that guy who was hired as a head coach standing on a podium next to Jim Nantz at the Super Bowl, right? And I saw McDaniel hired, and I go, I don't know, that's kind of a funky one. And then you hear him talk about trying to break the 70-point record, right, a few weeks ago, and he says, that'd be cool. Kicking a field goal to get to 70 and all that would be great, and it'd be awesome to put up the most points ever. But that's not why we're here. We're here to win a title, and I think that's why guys rally around him. What's the difference in mentality in this locker room than from 2019?
And and I'm going to go ahead and say I don't think that locker room didn't have this, but the mentality here, they want to win a Super Bowl. They don't care. If it's Deebo Samuel's day, Brandon Ayuk does not care. If it's George Kittle's day, Deebo Samuel doesn't care. If it's Christian McCaffrey's day and Jordan Mason's day, I mean, the list could go on and on and on. And I think that's different. You also have guys with more experience. Fred Warner is playing at as high a level, and that's saying something because Fred Warner is all pro Fred.
He might have been the MVP today on defense. I mean, he's all over the place.
I think he really was the MVP on defense. Nick Bosa said he's the best in the world, and it's not even close. Yeah. And I think that's very true. So you also have Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, more veterans in their careers. They've been through it. They've been through stuff. Yeah. They went through losing a Super Bowl. They went through 2020. They went through 2021 and 2022, losing those NFC Championship games in very different fashions, but in somewhat spectacular fashions. You have Brock Purdy gets hurt on that, like his second play of the offensive series. And then you have the Jaquaski Tart dropped interception, and who knows what would have happened, but they've been through a lot. And so the focus is winning a Super Bowl. And they say it week after week, I don't care. I just don't care. And Brock actually said in his press conference, because someone asked about getting the ball to George Kittle since he had one target last week. And then, of course, he had 3 touchdowns today. And he said, I don't have guys that come to me and say, I'm open, throw to me. I'm open, why don't you throw to me? Like, we are all so focused. And then I think the other big X factor here might be Brock Purdy. I mean, Brock Purdy is the quarterback they've been looking for. And I don't want to hear another word from any of you on Twitter. I don't want to hear one more word that Kyle Shanahan can do this with anybody. It's not real. He has so many weapons. He is it. He's
a real deal, man.
He is real. I know the kids like to say he's him, whatever that means. Like, he's the guy. And he's the difference maker, because this is no disrespect to his predecessor, but he is not going to lose the game with an interception at the end of the game. He's just not. He's not going to miss those
I like
throws.
how you did that, by the way.
He's just not.
Yeah.
She didn't say Jimmy Garoppolo, but she said his predecessor who threw untimely interceptions.
He's not going to walk across the
buzz
linebacker and hand it to a linebacker.
Exactly.
I really like Jimmy Garoppolo.
No, look,
but you make points.
But here's even the bigger picture. 42-10, Tracy Sandler's in with us. John Lund, Dennis Brown, and Adam Copeland after the 42-10 win here at Levi's Stadium next week early against the Browns. He trusts him.
Yes.
I mean, and you're there all the time, so you know this and you see this.
He smiles when he talks about him. It's never happened.
He does.
with Kyle Shanahan.
Right.
He should smile.
No, but that's the thing is the offense is opened up. And here's the other thing, too, because I'm stuck on this, too, this whole national media thing, which I shouldn't care. But if people watch the throws, he's not dumping everything down. It's not check down stuff. It's not that. It's high-end throws like the ball he threw to Deebo over an outstretched linebacker's hands that changes the game. It's 21-10 at that point. They're coming off the penalty on third down that they call back on Ayuk. And the very next throw, he nails it. They go up 28-10 on the third touchdown from Kittle, and the game's over. Dak starts throwing interceptions all over the place. He's throwing high-end throws and has the trust of a guy who knows that he's going to execute and put the ball where it needs to go. And again, no turnovers again for Brock Purdy tonight. So he doesn't hurt you in that way, like, I'll say it, Jimmy Garoppolo did, or other quarterbacks he had no trust in. And it goes back to 19, like you said. The reason they ran the ball so damn much is because they're like, is Jimmy going to screw this up? We have a great defense. We have all these things going for us. If 10 doesn't throw an interception, we're fine.
Extra opportunities will break you.
He doesn't have that here. If it's 3rd and 12, he's not running a draw or a screen or a check down. He's trying to get the first down and go for your throat because he trusts number 13.
And there's something else that I just thought of that I think is a little different too. Winning is fun. So in 2019, they were having a great time. And this was a good group, and there was so much chemistry, and they had so many tremendous players on that team. But this team's having fun in an almost looser way. They've been having fun since OTAs. This team's just having fun. They were having fun in training camp. They were just having fun. And I know we talked a little bit about this last week. It makes a huge difference. And when you play loose like that and you're just having a good time and everybody trusts everybody else, those are the game changers.
And it looks like they're loose. When I was playing, the locker rooms were tense because we really had the pressure to win Super Bowls. And this team feels like they play really loose, especially on the defensive side. They just run around. They run around and make plays. And I'm thinking of Randy Gregory. How does he fit, in your opinion, into this defense that is the best in the National Football League? How does he come in? I mean, we talk about Cleveland next week. He'll be here on Monday, tomorrow. Well, it's probably tomorrow now, but
some parts of the world,
it just feels like it.
Yeah, he'll be here this week preparing for Cleveland. How does he fit in this locker room? most important on the field.
Well, I think that's interesting. And Nick Bosa said it's an $80 million pass rusher that they got at a bargain. And I think what they feel like they've been missing, and when they signed him, I thought a little bit about our conversation last week about the secondary and how the best way, and the secondary was spectacular tonight and is obviously having a really good season, but one of the best ways to alleviate pressure there is to make sure that that line is just stalwart, I guess is probably the right word. So now you put a guy on the other end there that has had tremendous success, that is a tremendous talent, and it just clearly that is what they think the key is. That's how they've built this team. That's where they've invested, and that is where they think the key is. So I think, it just adds another huge piece to this puzzle. How he fits in the locker room, I'm assuming he'll fit fine, mainly because they've been so careful about that and about locker room chemistry that if they thought they wouldn't have made the trade. But it'll be kind of fun to see him on the other side of Nick Bosa. And he's a tremendous talent. He's had some issues over the years, but this is a tremendous talent. We've seen Chris Kasarik just do wonders with guys that are much less talented than Randy Gregory. So I think it's going to be pretty cool to watch.
49ers win at 42-10. Let's go protecting the quarterback. Brought to us by our good friends at Contra Costa Sheriff's Department. The protect your community. Of course, we want to do that with your new career and law enforcement at cocosheriff.com today. And protecting the quarterback also brought to us by our good friends at Bay Alarm. Worry less about your people and more about your property with Bay Alarm, bayalarm.com. Well, J-Ron Kearse was the only one to get a sack for the Cowboys that took a blitz, and then name them as far as the 49ers are concerned. Bosa got a half a sack. Armstead got a half a sack. Dre got a sack. Fred Warner got a sack. Great defensive line pressure all day on Dak Prescott, who then just decided to throw a bunch of interceptions.
I love the way they swarm, but if I'm Nick Bosa, I'm like, dude, Armstead, I was going down, man. Can I just finish this thing off? Like, can I just have one that's mine, Eric, without you getting back here? I mean, they were monsters today, man. It was a lot of fun to see them out there getting to the quarterback. And pretty much, I mean, you said you had the prediction of the score and the beatdown like this, Tracy, before the game.
Well, I don't think I predicted the
Maybe
score.
not the
I just
score.
didn't, because I'm so bad at that. But I just thought it was going. I just didn't think it was.
Thought it was not going to be a close game.
Yeah,
Dennis and I, same thing. Dennis said, I think this is a defensive game. I think it's a game where they break out. Defense gets after. I think John said the same thing. I said linebacker game, which meant I thought big tight end game. I thought George Kittle and the linebackers. One of our guy, Ernie, Ernie checked in here on the YouTube stream, and we are streaming on YouTube. Big fans of Tracy, by the way, saying she does great work, and it's been awesome for her to check in. How about this note that they just gave me, though? Fred Warner, the first Niner player with a sack, a pick, and a forced fumble since Navarro Bowman did it in 2013. Hell of a note.
That is
good note there from Ernie. Thanks for checking in on that.
That is one hell of a note. He had quite a game for
He was awesome. 42-10. The 49ers get the win. Check in on the text line, also YouTube and Twitch. You can get the conversation going there as well. We'll answer the best questions. We'll continue the conversation next, only here on the Sports Leader.
Yeah, it's funny because, Coach Wilkes, he said it last night. He said, you guys don't know how good you truly can be. We see the talent in the room and what our potential is, but it's about doing it, week in and week out. And to do it this game on this stage against a really good football team, it really meant a lot.
Fred Warner leading us back. 49ers dominate over the Cowboys 42-10. And by the way, were you in with Fred Warner?
I was.
He said that he wouldn't mind some Defensive Player of the Year consideration. And everybody's talking about Micah Parsons. I know he had 4 tackles, 1 solo. He was absolutely invisible. T.J. Watt was really good in the win over the Ravens today. Bosa's going to get his. If Armstead would get out of the way, he would have had a full sack today. But when you have the kind of day that Fred Warner has, and I don't remember last time I line, usually it's an edge guy that does it and has all the sacks and those kind of things. But again, you're forcing a fumble, you get an interception. The way that Fred Warner played today, absolutely. Because when you start racking up what they're racking up, it's usually for the MVP. It's best quarterback on the best team, offensive player of the year. Christian McCaffrey could take that. Fred Warner, the way he's playing, could be defensive player of the year. When you start looking at these kind of things, the way these guys are playing, you usually start looking at the best team. And right now, the 49ers look like it's it, or they're it.
Absolutely. And Fred Warner should get consideration for that. The other thing Fred Warner keeps doing is having these amazing nights in primetime where everybody's watching the 49ers, and that's a good way to do it. They're not Sundays at 1 o'clock.
And it looks like the defensive game plan, Wilkes seems to use Fred Warner some of those blitzes too. I mean, he's getting, if you're getting sacks, you're getting in the backfield, you're getting that call to do that, and he rushes the passer really well. I mean, he's always kind of done that, but it seems like he's getting more opportunities now, to rush the quarterback.
And I think we should talk about Steve Wilkes. I mean, the 49ers are like growing defensive coordinator or lead defensive coordinators on trees. He had Robert Saleh, DeMeco Ryans. Steve Wilkes has been tremendous. I mean, this defense hasn't missed a beat. In some ways, maybe they're better. I mean, it's incredible. And that's not an easy thing to do. And I think that's really impressive. And I think Steve Wilkes deserves a lot of credit for how well all of these guys are playing. And he's playing to the strengths of his defense. And he's putting everyone in positions to succeed.
Well, Warner's got 2 sacks on the season now. Was it a full sack today he got?
Yes.
So it was a full sack today. He's now got 2 on the year that matches his total from last season through 17 games. 3 is his career high back in 2019. I leaned over to somebody, it might have been Danny Emmerman from KNBR.com today. I said, I wonder if Fred Warner's like, if it's on the table that he sets his franchise or his personal record in a season for sacks. He's got 2 through 5 games now. He had 24 solo tackles entering today. He had 79 all of last year. I mean, he's on pace for over 100 solo tackles on the season, a career high in sacks. He maybe will get some consideration there, but kind of, and we've talked about this, guys, the linebacker position has kind of become to defense what the running back position has become to the offense. It's just not the focal point the way it used to be, but Fred Warner's playing out of his mind.
As is Dre Greenlaw.
Yeah.
49ers linebackers are
insane.
Both had a sack today. Both are really good.
When we talk about, it's always about sacks. I mean, it's focused around sacks and interceptions. So, linebackers out there to make tackles. That's what a linebacker does. But when you have a guy, an athlete, an athletic or linebacker like Fred Warner, and we start talking about MVPs, I mean, he's got to be in the conversation at least.
That's Dennis Brown. Tracy Sandler is here. Adam Copeland, John Lund, thanks for joining us. 42-10, the 49ers dominate the Cowboys. Give us a little insight into, because the defense has been really, really good. Nobody's saying it hasn't been. But after last week against Arizona, there were some plays, and even the guys were saying, hey, you know what? We've got another level to play, which I think they elevated themselves to. How long does it take? Because as Tracy just said, you're going DC to DC to DC, and everybody's a little bit different, even though you're running a similar system. So how long does it take to kind of acclimate to a guy like Steve Wilkes?
I mean, a lot of it is just it's your leadership that you have on the field. I mean, we went through a couple of defensive coordinators, but it was all the leadership we had. And you practice the way you want to play and the way you prepare for a football game, the way you get your body ready, the way you're in the weight room, all that stuff. I mean, the DC is just making the calls. The players are on the field making the plays, running the plays, executing the defense. So it's all about the mentality. And I think that's what this team has been. It's been the same mentality every DC that's come in. And that's just been playing with your hair on fire. And that's what it is. And it all starts up front in the trenches. And that's that attitude. Take the ball away, force fumbles, shut down run game. That's been the attitude throughout all the DC. So it's all a mentality. and DC is just there making the calls. I mean, you have to set the precedent on the football field, and it's set by the leaders.
I want to ask Tracy about this, too, because we had Kyle Shanahan on early in the season, and I said, it feels to me like it's the most continuity you've had going into a season on offense. He said, it doesn't feel like it is that way. Because you look around the offense, there's nobody who's not established or brand new that you're trying to figure out, right? Ronnie Bell, obviously a new weapon, but even Jawan Jennings.
I'm so glad you brought Ronnie Bell.
I like Ronnie Bell a lot. I think he's a guy. I think he's
no more Michigan players.
Wait, can I just really plug?
I told you.
Michigan,
I told you. You just gave her the opening. She's going.
I just want to plug. I wrote a really good story on Ronnie Bell that came out today, and I think you guys should all read it. Okay, that's all. We can move on.
Sports.
Where can they find it?
FGSN.com.
Good.
It's really fun.
FGSN.com. I think we like Ronnie Bell. We were hyped on him. First career catch was a touchdown a couple of weeks back.
He's become a really good gunner, too.
He has.
Yeah.
He was like making catches.
He had two very big special teams plays.
Laying tackles on the same in the same game that he caught his first touchdown pass. So, it was like Raheem Mostert.
So Michigan, you're a Michigan.
I am.
Okay.
And so you guys have
you just like everybody. Guy
Jake Moody knocking him through. We got Ronnie Bell. It's all Michigan all the time.
Unless you went to Washington and played on the defensive line, Dennis does not like you.
I'm a little biased.
Dennis doesn't want to get into offensive linemen. I totally forgot where I was even going.
Oh, you were saying continuity on the offense.
Continuity. Here we go. We're all back to the continuity. And Dennis is talking defensive. Has anybody said anything about the defensive side of things? Because that's the one piece of continuity that's not there on defense. It's one, you bring in Javon Hargrave, which big deal. You add a huge key piece there. But it's the play caller. It's Steve Wilkes. That's the one piece that I thought that's a little bit funky. And at times it does look different and more aggressive. Has anybody said anything about defensive continuity this year?
They haven't. All they've said is that he's a little bit different. He brings his own style, but they're adjusting.
They've adapted. Yeah.
Right. And I think even in the first few weeks, certainly they played great, but maybe not to the level that they were used to. That was probably getting used to Wilkes and getting used to Hargrave, and that's just part of the thing. And getting Bosa back. They didn't have Bosa throughout training camp preseason. So I think that was all. But basically, they've all kind of just said they haven't really missed a beat. It's just everybody brings their own thing to it, and they've been fine.
Well, the one thing that we talked about probably ad nauseum all week long was the advantage that Dallas had at one of the corner spots. Either you're going to go inside, and that's where CeeDee's going to go. He had 13 catches, 13 targets, 10 catches last year. That really wasn't a problem today. There was a couple of plays, but CeeDee had 4 catches. They really didn't do anything. Honestly, we were talking about the run game. Can Pollard establish something? He had that nasty injury last year. Nothing in the run game. CeeDee Lamb was basically disappearing. Jake Ferguson had one play. They got a first down on a fairly long play. There was one, but there was nothing. There wasn't explosive plays. There wasn't consistency. There was one scoring drive, and there was a field goal right out of the half. But they didn't get any consistency out of their offense. And so, again, you got to look at the defense and say, he's starting to adjust. And you mentioned Fred Warner coming up the middle. It makes it a lot easier for him to get sacks. When you're talking about the guys that they have on the interior, you've got to double those guys. All of a sudden, Fred Warner is getting really good at then timing up that sack and coming straight through the middle, because a lot of times – he's not going to have anybody blocking him because you're doubling Hargrave. You're paying attention to Eric Armstead inside. Here comes 54, and he's a bullet. And the reason why he's such a great blitzer is he doesn't miss tackles. How many times you can see a defensive back or a linebacker aren't used to doing that? Just slide like DJ Reed at the Jets last week, just right by the quarterback.
Former
dude,
49er.
You just went right by the quarterback. A lot of guys, they just aren't used to it. Like you guys are on the defensive line. It's like, okay, settle down, break down, sack the quarterback. These guys are like their hair on fire. Fred's a great tackler. So he's going to get the quarterback, and he's athletic and or faster than most the guys he's going to get.
Yeah, and you hit it right on the head. I mean, he understands how to break down, shoulder to the outside, not go with your head down, keep your eyes open, see what you're hitting. And, like I said, I mean, him coming on those blitzes or just watching him come. I mean, he comes off, and if he's not blocked, it's going to be a sack. And he had a big one today. Backed up in the end zone. Now there's going to be a safety, but he's becoming a really good blitzer now. And
I do want to give credit to the secondary. Deommodore Lenoir, Charvarius Ward, and to the corners specifically, and Isaiah Oliver all had really great games. And the guys mentioned that. And then I think they all had really, really great games, and it showed.
One thing we've got to correct Tracy on here. If she's going to be joining us on postgame, she knows, or she has to know, we refer to Oliver as one thing and one thing only on this postgame show.
No, we don't.
Oliver Twist, boys. That's a great pop-up.
Can I have some more tackles?
We went through this in was it in Los Angeles when Greg I think first called him that, Greg Papa, and after the game we had a whole big riff on some more interceptions, sir. Please, sir. There you go, Oliver Twist.
42-10 injury report brought to us by our good friends at Hughes Orthopedics, specializing in regenerative medicine therapies to heal chronic pain without surgery. Call 650-343-knee, 650-343-knee. We heard Kyle talk about it, and you said this, Tracy. He doesn't, right after the game, he's just getting briefed very quickly on guys, and he doesn't want to make any kind of proclamations on injuries. But the one for Aaron Banks was a bicep injury, but we don't have anything beyond that.
He left the game, did not return. Was that at halftime? He didn't come back after the half. I think
John Feliciano did a nice job, though, coming off
and John,
the
who was questionable
protocol.
going to come into the game
with the concussion from this week, right?
That was we said it before. The only thing that can really derail this team is injuries, but I think they'd have to have a lot of them.
It would probably take 3 or 4 or a couple of big ones.
Plus, the other thing, too, is speaking of injuries, Elijah Mitchell's had a ton of them, so the 49ers are used to this, man. Jordan Mason, north and south, and that's what Kyle likes. He wants a north and south runner. Scored that touchdown, but he's going to go through the middle. He's going to get hit, but they've got depth at the running back position. Christian McCaffrey, we said before the game, the Cowboys were talking about how much they focused on him. They did because it had opened up for other guys.
They tried to decapitate the poor man multiple times.
But Jordan Mason's a good backup. As long as he can hang on to the football.
Yeah.
He goes north and south, and he's like a bullet. Like, he gets the ball, and he goes.
It's just a riot to me that they win 42-10. Jordan Mason's out there, and still, when I think Brock Purdy and Jordan Mason, the one photo I think of is that turn to the wrong side in the preseason last year. These two guys
this Purdy guy sucks.
Brock Purdy's maybe the leading MVP candidate now, heading into Week 6, 9 touchdowns, no picks. Pretty incredible.
Was that 2 seasons ago?
That was last season.
That was
last
preseason.
season.
Is that the
Preseason, he turned the wrong way, and we're like, oh, this dude. Last pick of the draft.
And now we're like, dude, we got to keep this guy on the field.
Exactly.
We're like, do not
like
put this guy in bubble wrap, man. So, good deal. Tracy, great when you come by. We'll check in with you. You'll be in the, as I said, the Factory of Sadness in Cleveland next year.
I will be.
Tough to bring Tracy down, but we'll check in with you on postgame.
Sounds great.
And tell people how to get hold of your stuff.
FGSN.com for everything I write, including the Ronnie Bell story, which I really want you all to read. You can find me on Twitter at TracyFGSN, on Instagram and TikTok at Tracy Sandler, and I feel like I've flooded you all with enough information.
No,
and my
good.
podcast, The Tracy Sandler Show.
Yeah, check
it all out.
Tracy travels. She'll be in Cleveland next week. She'll give you great insight. Does a great job covering the Niners. So make sure you check her stuff out.
All right. We will see you later, Tracy. When we come on back, we'll hear from Deommodore Lenoir. Deommodore Lenoir in the secondary, who spoke to the media afterwards, and he spoke to Greg and Tim on the postgame show. That's coming up next. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Lund with Tracy Sandler, live from Levi's Stadium. Niners over the Dallas Cowboys, 42-10.
Oliver Twist.
Oh, I like that.
Coming up. Wasn't a twist, though.
Back here from Levi's Stadium, Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champ Dennis Brown, John Lunn, hanging out with you here following a 49er absolute ass whooping of the Dallas Cowboys. 42-10 is the final. Brock Purdy, a career high in QB rating. 144 and change was his QB rating tonight. Threw for 4 touchdowns. And how about this? Fred Warner becomes the first 49er with a sack, a pick, and a forced fumble since Navarro Bowman did it back in 2013. We'll get you a little post-game player interview here. Sponsored by the Handlery Union Square Hotel, San Francisco's oldest family-owned hotel. We just talked to Tracy Sandler, Fangirl Sports Network. She was all fired up about the secondary. Deommodore Lenoir played a nice game in the secondary today, and he is our post-game player interview. Here is Deommodore Lenoir.
Demo, you there?
Deommodore Lenoir,
I'm here. I'm here.
We were going to play your first play where you tipped the ball away on Michael Gallup. Tell me about that play. Fred Warner got the INT, Demo, but your drive on that route is what tipped the ball up in the air.
Oh yeah, I seen the formation. It was 4-by-1, so I know just from watching film that on the backside they love slant routes. So I'll just play the heavy inside and then waited, reading my keys, read his hips, and then.
Yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history.
Demo, I'm so happy for you, man, and the ascending player that you've become. You were great. In the play, you had a good year last year. Really raised the level of your game in the playoffs with some takeaways. And this defense, man, and as I said, it's going to be about tracking and tackling because Dallas is going to want to get it out quick. In order to achieve that, you got to be on point with your preparation and your anticipation. And Daniel Bullocks and Wilkes, Steve Wilkes is the DC. You guys are prepped up, man. That's a testament to them and to you guys for just kind of taking the ball and rolling with it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I appreciate that. I mean, you see it every day. You see the work, the walkthroughs. Everything is always attention to detail. And just to have these guys on this defense, it's a blessing to me. And I love them, with all my heart, and I'll do anything for them. I'm gonna keep going 110%, just so we can get to the Super Bowl.
And you're just like everybody else in the kill zone, man. You are nasty. It's about body rocking hits. How about Fred Warner with that punch out? Talk about how the momentum, because Pollard, that was maybe his only good run of the game, and he gets it out on the perimeter, and Fred with a Tommy Hitman Hearns punch out with that right cross.
Oh yeah, for sure. You can always count on Fred. He always flying around to the ball. He's like a heat-seeking missile. Just to have him on his defense, it's like it takes a lot of weight off your shoulders because he there and he gonna make the play.
What's funny to me is some of these guys don't think Dre Greenlaw, when he's on that track, is going to make the play, and Dre just keeps closing the gap and making tackles every time he's got the opportunity. And again, it's nasty when he arrives.
Oh yeah, Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, the best duo linebacker in the league, and it really shows week in and week out. The work that they put in through the week, just being able to see how to actually be a pro, it's a blessing.
Hey, take us through the Tashawn Gibson center field interception, and do you think Dak Prescott made his mind up pre-snap he was going to throw that seam route to Brandon Cooks because you were in glove coverage? There was nowhere to throw it, and he just launched it. What do you think?
I knew from last year, they got me with a deep ball last year, so I knew they was going to come out and try this year. They gave me the same formation, the paratrips formation. I knew I had Gip the whole time. Gip is always, he's a smart player, so he gonna lean to the X wherever he feel the ball is going. So I just counted on him, trusted in him, and funneled Brandon Cooks in to my post safety, and Gip was there to make the play.
Is this the best you've been a part of some good defenses now, and there's a lot of football to go, but I just feel like from top to bottom, and now we'll see with the addition of Randy Gregory means. I think this defense, but I don't know if there's been a better group around here in a while.
Oh yeah, I feel like we're the most complete defense in the NFL.
And you, Demo, not many guys can do what you do, which is play on the outside and then slide inside and play in nickel. And now you did some of this at Oregon. Just talk about the skill set and how you train to do both. Do you have a preference whether you want to be a true cornerback on the outside or play nickelback?
Really, I love both. I love the challenge. I know some of the best receivers line up in the slot, so being able to have that flexibility and versatility will always be a plus on my end. I just love to compete.
You know, wherever coach say I need to play, then that's where I'm going, and that's what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna do it 110%.
The action's hot on the boundary, and the action's hot in the slot. And Demo, you like it both.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You like the action hot, don't you?
You know, tell our audience, because I remember talking to you at training camp and about what you did in the off season to work on the third level throw, the 50-50 ball down the field. And Dallas last year in the playoff game got you on the deep one to CeeDee Lamb. I don't see too many teams doing that, but you were talking about the chest plate and what Steve Wilkes was coaching you. So how have you been able to take away when the opponent's, bigger receiver against you, just go up and try to high point the ball against you, Demo?
I think it started off with a mentality first. A lot of people say that I'm small, and they try to put their big receivers, but I mean, I don't shy away from competition. It's never been about size to me. It's about the dog within.
That's right. And then we know that this dog bites. Everyone always said, and you're not as small as Darryl Green was. He's in the Hall of Fame, man. It has nothing to do with that.
Yes,
it's about that mindset and playing your technique, and you just continue to get better every time you take the field. Good for you.
For sure. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Congratulations, man. You showed out tonight big time for the whole nation watch. Congratulations.
Thank you.
There you go. Deommodore Lenoir, our post-game player interview. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Lund with you from Levi Stadium. Niners over the Cowboys, 42-10. Secondary has been, they made the trade for Randy Gregory this week, which is we'll likely see him next week against Cleveland as an edge rusher opposite Nick Bosa. Nice to add to that core and to that unit. But the other position we've talked about being that there's still $40 million under the cap, and the name that you and I keep throwing out, John, is like Montez Sweat. And we've thrown out Danielle Hunter from the Minnesota Vikings, who lost again today. Another bad
on the
loss.
last year of their deal.
On the last year of their deal, you wouldn't be guaranteed anything else where you have to pay them. So we'll see what happens in terms of injury, but also the secondary. We were just talking Deommodore Lenoir. Ambry Thomas is one we were concerned about coming into the game. Isaiah Oliver, another game where I didn't think he played that great today. We joke about the Oliver twist thing. If I can take it one step further, might have twisted around a little bit today.
The Turpin touchdown. The only touchdown they gave up. Turpin was coming out of the slot, and he was going right to left. And he had beaten him to the corner and quite easily, to be honest. And again, it's just Oliver's 6'2", 210. He's not that quick, slot guy they've had in the past.
He's kind of a guy who I'd expected as a vet was going to play a little tougher. And so maybe that's a spot they need to think about upgrading. And again, there's not much to upgrade on this roster. I don't know where you go. So
we talked all week about it, and we thought, okay, Oliver could get, he got targeted 3 times and catches all 3. And I thought that Dallas would keep going at him, and they didn't. And then I thought maybe if they had Ambry on the outside, if they moved Lenoir ever inside. But other than that, the Oliver touchdown, they didn't get really burned in the slot. And that's where Kyle is different than a Mike McCarthy or something. Coaching obviously makes a ton of difference in this game. But if they had a target at that, they would just keep going and going and going until Dallas would make a switch. For some reason, Dallas goes away from it. And, all hell broke loose, and the 49ers offense was so good that they never really had to do that. So, maybe they'll make a change. Maybe they'll have to do something. But Dallas never forced it.
Yeah, and I think maybe one of the reasons is because Dak was under pressure a lot. I mean, right. You're right. I mean, if any offense sees a weakness, especially in a good defense, they're gonna hit it until you can show that you can defeat it, or you can kind of rebound back from it. But I think Dak was just under pressure, and we're looking at him right now. And
look at the quote there, and you had said it. Dak Prescott after the game said this might be the most humbling game I've ever been a part of. Mike McCarthy said it was a gut punch. He said, I didn't see this coming. I mean, I do think maybe that teams are underestimating because they saw the 49ers last year. As good as that team was, this team is a step better. And especially they're a step better offensively. And I think what the Cowboys lulled themselves potentially into is thinking that it was the Brock Purdy of last year. And we said this going into this season, as good as Brock was last year, and he was good, he has taken it another step forward. And I thought right away you could tell on that first George Kittle touchdown where he moved up in the pocket, moved right, and hit Kittle with that 19-yarder. That's the difference. I mean, there's a few differences in his game, but his pocket presence. Last year against Dallas, he was bleeding out to the left, and I know that they constantly said, we want you to get up into the pocket.
Kind of Dak a bunch today, trying to bleed left, and he was trying to turn his hips and couldn't do it.
And I don't know how you do that when you have the offseason he had where he wasn't physically available. So I don't know, mental reps, watching it.
Throws, but mental reps to me are just such a cop-out at times.
But it must be like they were sitting with him in a film room saying, you see how you're moving this way? We want you to move this way. We want you to move up, because that was a perfect example. And I think, honestly, that the Cowboys thought, that's the guy we're going to see, that he's no different. And this is the national media perception of him. And I don't know if it's going to exist anymore after he threw 4 touchdowns, that was a great illustration of the player he's become, and I think Dallas just didn't know how much better. I think he's much better.
And I almost think that, Dallas actually believes when they show up that they're going to dominate football games. And I don't know, if I'm correct about that, but it just feels like when they go into a football field, they feel like they're going to win football games. I mean, it's a great mentality to have, but if you don't have, the players to do that, it doesn't happen. I think what happened today was the 49ers punched them in the mouth. And they looked up, they're like, whoa, we're in a dogfight and we're losing. And I'm a cat type of thing, So I just think their mentality is that, we're Dallas Cowboys and we're going to win football games. And you got to go and execute. And today they just didn't execute at all.
Because I think they've played teams that gave them games. The Giants in that first game were terrible. They won 40-0. The Jets.
Dude, they lost to the Arizona Cardinals.
Right.
And that was, I'm going to go out and say, and I'll still say this right now, that's the toughest game the Niners have played this year. So far, top to bottom, that's the best, that's the toughest opponent I've seen the Niners play. I know they fell apart today. Arizona did. They played Cincinnati. And Cincinnati, Joe Burrow finally broke out. Jamar Chase had a huge game.
He looked a lot healthier.
2 turnovers, I think. It might have been 2 or maybe 3 turnovers. I think it was a fumble loss and a couple of picks thrown by Josh Dobbs, who threw 2 touchdown passes and had game of his life last week against the best defense in football. But I still think Arizona played that game tougher. They got up for it a little bit better than I expected. Basically anybody. The Rams are always going to be tough just because they know you, Sean McVay and all that, and on the road. But this Dallas team did not look like they were a challenge. I said all week, offensively, they don't scare me. 2 offensive touchdowns a game they were averaging coming into this one. Yeah. They get 1 today.
Well, you know what it reminded me of, and just because you just said that, Dennis, and the 49ers win 42-10, is kind of like the Rams. Like when the 49ers would punch the Rams in the face, and they'd say, we're going to be physical, and then the Niners punch you in the face, and then it's like, whoa, that's being physical? They just didn't seem ready, and it surprises me because you look at it now, Dallas is 3-2, the 49ers are 5-0, and they have the tiebreaker. So essentially, through 5 games, the 49ers are 3 games ahead of Dallas. Unless the 49ers have major injuries.
Clear them. Yeah,
so Dallas ain't catching the 49ers. And obviously the Eagles are good. And I'm not nitpicking here. Jalen Hurts hasn't been as good. They haven't been quite as good defensively.
Touchdown a pick today, right?
At Kansas City, watching them against Minnesota. They already lost against Detroit. They haven't been as good. Detroit looks pretty good. Seattle was off this week. But you start assessing teams, and the 49ers have some tough games coming up, there's no question. But you start assessing teams who the 49ers are going to play or who could beat the 49ers. Look, they can turn the ball over. They can make mistakes. But what we've been talking about in this postgame show is offensively, they're a lot better than they were last year, and they have so many weapons. Defensively, you're starting to see. And
it's a defensive game today.
Well,
yeah,
and
oddly enough.
And you're starting to see all of a sudden, look, Randy Gregory, I'm not saying is a world beater, but on this defensive line, what he can add. And the reason he didn't fit in Denver was because they moved to a 3-4, and he was a 3-4 outside linebacker. That's not what he is. He's a forward. If you look at his build, he's 6'5", 245. He's this long arms Smith kind of looking guy who's just, and you're going to put him in a wide 9. He came out of Nebraska running a 4.6. He's fast, he's quick, and he's going to be coming wide off that edge. And you're going to have, regardless of what he's done in the past, it's going to be one of those things where an offensive coordinator is going to have to say, okay, we're going to have to game plan for this guy. I don't know if they're game planning for Drake Jackson or Cleve Farrell or any of those kind of guys. They're going to have to game plan. And now all of a sudden we're going to double the guys inside because Hargrave is so good next to Armstead. And now we know what we have to do, Nick Bosa. And now you got a guy, this is that D Ford situation where you say, by the way, Fred Warner's coming through the middle. I mean, what the hell are you going to do?
The play you got the sack on Dak today was hysterical because Dak did what we just talked about. He rolled out left. He kind of tried to turn his hips. Warner came at him. He was sort of sitting right where he was supposed to be. He kind of runs at him, and Dak did the thing where he pump faked, like he was going to try to get him to jump. And Warner basically yelled at him. He didn't, but he basically yelled, "You can throw it or I can hit you or both." Like one of the two, and Dak just kind of grabbed it and fumbled onto him. So he crumbled onto himself, and Warner hit him. But with as fast as he is, and as much as they're bringing him to the defensive line to try to make up for some of that edge rushing, I wonder if once Gregory's out there, if you sort of sit back a little bit with Warner, if because they've seen some of that on tape now early in the year, you can use that as a decoy. Is that something they can do? You can fake the blitz there or pretend like you're going to send Warner and have him drop back?
I guess, we'll see what Gregory does when he comes in. I mean, it's not like he's out of shape, out of game shape. I mean, he's played this season,
this year,
right? Yeah. So, he's going to hit the ground running. And like you said, he's that wide rusher. It's going to stretch out your offense. Your offense is going to play a little wider, and he's coming off that edge. He is a pass rusher, and he's had some good. He had double-digit sacks. What, in 2021?
21, he has great. Again, it depends on what people think of Pro Football Focus. Some people love it, some don't. There's some positions it grades well, and others it doesn't. But I mean, he had 6 sacks that year, but he had 43 quarterback pressures. He had 25 quarterback hits, and by their grading system, he had about an 85 pass rushing grade, and that's a high-end pass rushing grade. So, look, this guy can get it done, and then on a defensive line like this, nobody knows better than you do. If you're going to single Randy Gregory, all of a sudden he's a guy who could maybe get you 6 or 8 sacks, and if he's going to be singled every single time, he's a double-digit sack guy. That's the kind of talent he has. And for those worried about the off-the-field stuff, it was marijuana, which I'm not saying it's not, that you just run right by it, but it's a mental disorder that he had that he's gotten under control. And if you go to YouTube or any of these places where he's done these interviews before, he knows what he's dealing with. He's actually mature. We talked to the voice of the Cowboys earlier in the week, Brad Sham. He had said he's a really good guy. He's a hardworking guy. It's not one of those things. It's not Alden Smith with the addictions. It's not a guy who's kind of not working hard. It's just a guy who's battled these things, continues to, and admits it. And they've got a great group. You got Chris Kasarik. I think it's a great risk for the 49ers to take. It's not a big financial risk. And if he doesn't work out, they don't owe him a dime past this year.
Yeah, and I think you said something, if he's one-on-one, and that's what they're looking for, because you understand with this defense now that there's going to be someone that's going to be one-on-one. And I think they gave Drake Jackson he had that 3 sack to open up the season. But whoever's going to be on that other end, he's going to be one-on-one. And you said it right there. If he's going to be one-on-one, he's going to win. He's going to win a one-on-one, and he's going to get sacks. He's going to get pressures. And, with this defense, this defense is already up there. I mean, if you can just take over football games to the line of scrimmage, and we talk about the best team. We talk about the best line. This could be, if he comes in and does what he's supposed to do, this could be one of the best defensive lines that's been around here for a while.
Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champ, Dennis Brown, John Lund with you from Levi Stadium. Niners 42-10 over the Dallas Cowboys. 21-3 is the score in the second half. They absolutely crushed Dak Prescott, who threw 3 second-half interceptions. Took 3 sacks in the game, was 14-24 for 153. Brock Purdy, though, 17-24, 252 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Took just 1 sack and a career-best 144.4 passer rating. When we come on back, we'll get you the drive of the game, the call of the game, and we'll also let you hear a little Greg Papa rap. How about that? Greg Papa was rapping. I said a hip, a Brock, a hip it to the hip, it to the hip, hip, Brock. That's coming your way next, right here on the Sports Leader.
Oh, 100% touchdown. And then, the best part about that was it's usually like on the dummy, which means that Brock's going to get up there, wide A, said hut, and like pretend that we were going to change it to a new play. And the play clock was running down, so we just went on one instead, and our Colton thought it was still on the dummy, so he doesn't even move. So I had to stay in a little bit longer to not let the defensive end just blow up the whole play. So at first I was like, oh, this is going to be not great, because the corner was just sitting out there, the safety, and then turns out he tried to cover Christian, and I was able to run down the sideline.
George Kittle talking about one of his, 3 touchdown catches. First time in his career that he has done that. 3 for 67, 3 touchdowns. Every one of Kittle's catches went for a TD. Ayuk 4 for 58. The leading rusher in the game, Jordan Mason, 10 carries, 69 yards, and a touchdown. You had Christian McCaffrey, 19 of 51. Had a touchdown, did lose a fumble, also 2 catches for 27 yards. What's wrong with Christian McCaffrey? Just 78 total yards from scrimmage in this game. 808 KNBR, McCaffrey must go. Brock Purdy, 17 of 24, 252. 4 touchdowns and a 144.4 passer rating. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Lunt. Niners 42-10. I'm just taking a look, guys, at the schedule coming up here. And I know people are going, where's the loss here? How are they not going to go 9-0 into the bye week? They go to Cleveland. Any game you're going on the road is going to be tough. Deshaun Watson now.
They've got a good defense.
They've got a great defensive line, is Cleveland. They are not getting beat on the ground the way they have in the past. Then they go at Minnesota for a Monday night game, which doesn't terrify you, except that Minnesota's a team still with some pieces. They're a team that can get into a shootout with you. They're just not good defensively.
But you know what's weird about them? Okay, so we talked about this before the season. The one-score wins last year, all those one-score wins.
They've all gone the other way this year.
4 one-score losses.
Yep.
So they're not a terrible team. It's just that what the luck they had last year and winning all those games, they don't have any of it this year. So
they turn it over a lot, too.
They do. But they were in the Kansas City game, and they had opportunities in that game. And as you said, they turned the ball over. They gave up key third downs, but they were right there against Kansas City. So even though they should win that game, there's no question, you can't go in there thinking, oh, look at Minnesota's record. They're not very good. They're in games, but they're doing the opposite of last year. They're just not winning the games at the end.
All right, I keep saying 8, by the way, or 9-0. It could be 8-0 would be where you're at before the break. 3 more games before the bye. You go at Cleveland this Sunday. Again, it's a 10 a.m. kickoff, so we'll be with you coming at 7 a.m. this Sunday for Niners and the Browns. 49ers are at the Vikings Monday, the 23rd of October. That's another Monday Night Football game, but of course on the road. Then Bengals come here for a 125 kick on October 29th.
And Burrow should be healthy. I mean, you started to look at him against Arizona. He was a lot better. And then, they'll run Jamar Chase in the slot. They'll put him all over the place. But he had 14 catches today.
Yeah, he was a monster.
They're not going to give you a break. They got, T. Higgins is on that team, and you got, they've got good receivers. Boyd is a good receiver. So, we're talking about corner situations and matchups and things like that. Joe Mixon out of the backfield. They've got a lot of offensive talent. And if Joe Burrow is healthy, they haven't gotten off to a great start, but it was because Burrow's calf and he just couldn't move the last couple of weeks. Today, he looked a lot better against Arizona.
And they did make it clear. I heard Stephania Bell talking about it after he played in that first game where they weren't sure he was going to be able to go, is that this is going to be a work in progress for him. Any game that comes out, it could get aggravated. It could tweak it again. I mean, we saw Aaron Rodgers miss all that preseason time, come in and play 2 snaps or 3 snaps or whatever before he popped his Achilles there. And not to say that that's what's going to happen with Joe Burrow, but this has become more and more of a thing. They work really, really hard to make sure these guys are okay to get out there. And as long as there's no aggravation, that's certainly going to be a challenge of a game. And the Bengals are desperate. And that's a game that they got to come here to try to win in late October. They go at the Jags out of the bye week, which is no gimme, but you're out of the bye. Jags are a tough team. And again, an AFC matchup at this point, you're like, who knows? Yeah, you don't really care so much.
They beat the Bills today.
They beat the Bills today. Buccaneers then come here. Niners go to the Seahawks on Thanksgiving. Then they go the December 3rd matchup in Philly at the Eagles, and that's a 125 kick before you wrap up the season with a few more at home. You get the Ravens, the Seahawks, the Commanders, and whatnot. So it's funny, not a terribly difficult schedule in terms of how teams have played to this point in the season. I mean, their next, you don't want to say anybody's not a test. Cleveland's defense is going to be a test. Vikings offense will be a test, and then the Bengals in terms of back-to-back AFC title games would be a test into the bye. But it's not the most difficult schedule in football, guys.
Yeah, and you go on the road 2 weeks, in a row.
Been home for a long time here.
Yeah,
right.
And you have to get on a plane, you go cross country and all that blah blah blah
real
stuff.
Quick, Dennis, it's been California for a month, I believe, too, right? Because you go Rams.
3 games here.
There's 3 games here, but they played the Rams the week before that, so it's not like they've left California since they opened in Pittsburgh.
But with this team, what beats this team is themselves, right?
Probably.
I mean, in injuries, they've been lucky with injuries. You lose Banks today, but just injury. I mean, the way they're going now, the way they've been doing it this entire football season, the only thing that's gonna beat this team is themselves. And if that injury bug hits and, you lose a couple key players, but, the way they're playing now, the way they're preparing for the games, the way they go into a game and execute the game plan, offense and defense, I mean, it's all on you. Just keep the same mentality. It's on you.
They remind me a little bit. They haven't accomplished this and they haven't won Super Bowls, but they remind me of your teams in that, like Dallas today, they just didn't seem focused or ready for this game, and that could happen over a 17-game schedule. But there are so many guys, from Trent Williams to Eric Armstead. I mean, just look at all the leaders on this team. Even Brock Purdy in his second year is way beyond his years. Late in the game, people might not have noticed this. The 49ers and the Cowboys were kind of getting after it and pushing and shoving. Eric Armstead ran onto the field and got in the huddle and was talking to the guys like, "Hey, let's settle this thing down. The game is over."
And then he ran back off the field.
Then he ran back off the field.
That was big time.
They just have a ton of leaders, and it just seems to me that whole group of leaders that they've got, 10 or 12 of them, who Fred Warner. I mean, go on down the line. They've got a bunch of those guys. It just you'd have to have all of them asleep at the switch. I'm not saying they can't get beat. I'm saying unless it's an injury, I don't see them beating themselves. Like, you can have turnovers. But I'm saying that they're not going to fall asleep. They're not going to go into Cleveland next week going, man, let's exhale because we beat Dallas. They all off season, all they talked about was, or one of the main things they talked about was getting home field advantage, not having to go to Philadelphia, not having to dig from a hole like they had the last couple of weeks. They are absolutely focused. They want home field advantage all throughout because the last time they did that was 2019.
And we'll see where they can go this year, how far, if they can top that 2019. They did start, 8-0 in 19, or was it 9-0?
I think it was 8.
I think it was 8. No, then they hit that tough stretch of the 3 straight.
Right.
It was like Baltimore, Green Bay, who they did beat, and then New Orleans with a 3. They won 2 of 3 in that stretch. They lost the 1 in the rain, the walk-off kick from Justin Tucker in 2019. We will put a bow on this thing in about 15 minutes at the top of the hour. We are still streaming live, YouTube, Twitch, KNBR.com. You can listen live and watch live on each and every one of those platforms. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Lund from Levi's Stadium. We'll wrap it up here with the call of the game, the drive of the game, where the 49ers from Levi's have beaten the Dallas Cowboys 42-10 on the Sports Leader.
Thanks for joining us. 49ers beat the Cowboys soundly, 42-10. It's time for Drive of the Game, brought to us by our good friends at, Modesto Toyota. Modesto Toyota, it's worth the drive for selection and savings. Visit them today. Now is the great time. You go online and check out the one you want. Order it. That is the way I did it. That is the way my son did it. His son. Actually, I have a son. He did get his car from Modesto Toyota, as I did, but you get it. Yeah, they're actually contractually bound. Check them out today, ModestoToyota.com. That's Kevin and the whole crew at Modesto Toyota. Not one, not two, but 3 George Kittle touchdowns.
Gonna give it. No, it's a play action. Purdy gonna roll left, throw for the end zone. Caught by George Kittle. He has the hat trick tonight, a career high. 3 touchdown catches for George. Touchdown, San Francisco.
See how he sped it up? I think that 6 might be his limit. Sounded maybe he was losing the voice there. No, he wasn't. Hat trick, by the way, hockey term. That was not 18 toss flea flicker. That was a different one. That was the one before. Impress your friends with that tomorrow at work. That is your Drive of the Game, brought to us by our good friends at Modesto Toyota. 42-10, the 49ers get the win. More next, only here on the Flea Flicker Leaders.
Here's an end around and a flea flicker. Back to Brock Purdy. Takes a shot down the sideline to George Kittle. Kittle all the way to the end zone. Touchdown! San San Francisco.
With a little razzle-dazzle reverse flea flicker.
Impress your friends with that tomorrow. We'll make that our call of the game, sponsored by Call 811. Whether your project is big or it's small, always call 811 before you dig. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Lennon, wrapping it up. Yes, I dig. Wrapping it up here from Levi's Stadium. Fun one here. Niners over the Cowboys. All smiles, leaving 5-0. Niners going to hit the road for Cleveland. Just played 2 road games so far to this point. So 5 games in, 3-0 at home, 2-0 on the road. They go Cleveland, they go Minnesota, they come back home for one more to wrap it up before they hit the bye week. Let's get some final thoughts from you guys. Actually, before we get the final thoughts here, do we have that? There's a reason you came in with that song there, Danny, and that's because before the half, our guy Greg Papa decided to lay down a couple of bars here. Do you have it for us, Danny? You can hit go whenever you're ready.
All right, I got to take a break here at halftime. The Sugar Hill Gang is performing at halftime.
Okay.
You're Wonder Mike, and I'm Master G, and it's on you.
As long as the chicken don't taste like wood, I'm good.
You ever gone over a friend's house to eat, and the food just ain't no good?
And the Cowboys just ain't no good.
That's it.
And
I can never listen to that song.
You know what, Dennis? I think that's where
and
we
that's
ended.
a classic too.
I think that's where we ended tonight. I think that's where we ended tonight. We won't get final thoughts from
Why
John.
are you covering your face?
I think John's got his final thoughts, dude. I said a hip, a Brock, a hip to the hip, to the hip, hip. Brock said don't stop, a Brock into the bang, bang, boogie. Said up, jump the boogie to the rib of the bottom.
You got to talk to him about that.
Talk to your boy, John. Yeah, talk to your boy.
That's your people.
He can't help it, man. He can't help it. Once he feels it,
Brock Purdy,
no stopping him.
4 passing touchdowns, 3 receiving touchdowns for George Kittle. And
rock and roll.
First time, it's Brocktober. The first time a 49er, a defender, has had an interception, a forced fumble, and a sack in the same game. It was Fred Warner since Navarro Bowman did it back in 2013. That's going to do it for us. We wrap it up here. 49ers take down the Dallas Cowboys, and they're holding on to that number 1 seed in the NFC. Still a date on December 3rd in Philadelphia. Rematch with the Philadelphia Eagles. Brock is 10-0 as a starter, 144.4, a career best in a single game for a passer rating. For John Lund, Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown, thank you so much to Tracy Sandler, Danny getting it done back in the studio, and to Tim Webb. For everybody here at Levi's Stadium, Niners back with you. We'll be back with you next week, Sunday morning, 7 a.m. right here on KNBR 104.5 and 680, and we'll be streaming live on YouTube. Thanks to everybody who checked in. 49ers over the Cowboys in week 5, moving to 5-0, 42-10.
You're Wonder Mike, and I'm Master G, and it's on you.
As long as
And get to school, which of course still throws the family